Well, that was interesting.
Yes, it
For
was.
those of you who, well, now nobody's here. So the whole audience has disappeared. So I don't even know if they're going to get notifications of this. So we'll just wait a couple of minutes to see if a few people find us. This is just apologize for. I have no idea what happened. Steve Lapointe is on Christinapedia. Awesome. So people are starting to come back. I don't know. Spread the word somehow. I'm not sure what happened. I took probably some combination of a. Hold on, Joe, you there? Joe, are you there?
I'm here.
Yeah, I mean, I just took another internet hit in the middle of that, so I don't know what's going on. I know the
It,
streaming load is very high at this time of the night, so I'm not sure what strains there are on the system. We seem to be okay, but who knows? Okay, so look, why don't we just get through the weather as quick as we can and keep things relatively short? There's not much we're going to be able to do tonight.
obviously.
Okay,
No,
uh,
nothing.
very quiet weather pattern, and uh, I don't really see too much happening. I know a few people are looking at the system at the end of the week, maybe bringing some snow up to parts of the Northeast. But in the meantime, and I know Ruthless Goat from up in Loveland, Colorado, who's now pushing toward the 100-inch mark as far as snow is concerned. He's got a shot at it because they've got all sorts of winter storm warnings up and winter weather advisories up for for the northern half of Colorado, around the Denver area, and then of course through much of southern Wyoming and back over through Nebraska, and then kind of in a narrow band that extends east into southern Iowa, northern Missouri, where we've got some winter storm watches up. And the other story, Joe, is the fact that it's cold. So with the growing season underway, we're starting to see freeze warnings and frost advisories, and a whole bunch of them are up, and even freeze watches up for parts of the area that we cover, eastern PA to southern New England. But this is a cold weather pattern, and it doesn't show any signs of breaking down anytime soon.
We don't have any advisories or watches or warnings for freeze or frost conditions up my way here in Putnam County. But as I was just telling my wife, it might very well be that Putnam and let's say Dutchess and Orange and Ulster and those counties to the north, our growing season may not officially have begun.
Right.
I don't know exactly when it begins for me or for areas to the north, but obviously it must have begun for Westchester County because they are in line for a freeze watch for a
And
month.
also for Long Island and most of New Jersey, Central and South Jersey have frost advisories are up, and also frost advisories up for much of North Carolina, Southern Virginia, back through parts of Tennessee, most of Tennessee and Kentucky into southeast Missouri. This is about as exciting as the weather gets, folks, because we don't really have any major storms. Of course, we are looking at this system that is now in the Rockies, and the Weather Service offices. I'm going to bring up the snowfall forecast map, which I actually had preloaded until we took this massive hit of internet hit a little while ago. So let me just fix this all up for you. And there we go. Got that. Got that. And we'll put the total accumulated snow, and it's pretty sizable. There's a 5 print for Denver, but just north and west of Denver, Joe, there's a little streak of 15 to 30 inches being forecast. And you've got heavy snow that's being forecast on up into parts of Wyoming, some places getting up to a foot. And then you can see this sort of narrow band that extends eastward. Now, this is ending Saturday morning. Chicago being given 2 inches, and Detroit and most of southern Michigan, northern Indiana, northwest Ohio getting 2 to 4. And in the Northeast, looking at maybe across northern Pennsylvania and southern parts of southern New York State, south of I-90, extending east into parts of interior western New England, looking at a 1 to 3, 2 to 4 inch snowfall. I think it's possible the air may be just cold enough, and this wave wants to go just far enough south that maybe we'll pull it off.
Well, certainly it looks like in the higher terrain, the Catskills, for example, of southeastern New York, look like they have a shot at perhaps a few inches of the white stuff, and extreme northeastern Pennsylvania. And there's a one spot over in north central Pennsylvania that might very well see something on the order of what, 4, 5, 6 inches? Is that a possibility? Maybe.
No, not impossible in some of the the highest terrain.
Is that Williamsport out in that area, or Williamsport, Pennsylvania?
Be north and west of Williamsport, so it'd be all along those northern counties in PA.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm bringing up the chat board here, so just give me a moment. Okay, good. Uh, Most people made it back. Hopefully, everybody, again, apologies for those of you jumping on late. We started a live stream. I ranted and raved for 5 minutes, and the internet gods punished me, punished us by taking us down. But this is a this is a late season snowfall. So usually, what happens with these, Joe, you get this whatever snow you wind up getting. Most of it disappears during the daytime. I guess in terms of the timing, much of what happens in northern Pennsylvania and through upstate New York is going to happen during Friday night. So that will, that'll definitely accumulate. And then after we get past sunrise Saturday morning, after about an hour or two, most of it will disappear. Probably by lunchtime, most of it will be gone.
I'm looking at Timothy Veltman's comment on the chat board. A good couple of weeks for tomatoes. If you want a head start, save some gallon jugs, fill them with water to place around the plants on a cold night. Water warms the cold air enough to keep things warm. He's already thinking about tomatoes, Joe.
Well, you know what? Before you know it, it'll be May. And before you know, and listen, since we're not going to be able to do anything or go anywhere, we might as well grow our own food.
Might as well. Yeah.
Oh, the world we live in.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the satellite tonight, Joe. There's clouds streaming out of the Gulf of Mexico across northern Florida. I know SPC had a small area of marginal risk of severe weather for northern Florida today. You can see how flat this looks, folks. It's just when I say flat, you can almost take a ruler to the northern edge of the cloud line. There's no buckling shortwave that's intensifying or wrapping itself around where you get these sort of well-defined circulations. Instead, you just sort of have these flat little systems, these flat waves that move along. Now there is a what looks like a weak shortwave and weak cold front that's moving across western PA right now and western New York, and there actually were a couple of showers. Also seeing clouds building up through Montana down into Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska. That's ahead of that next storm system, and we're already seeing some precip that is coming out of Idaho, coming down from the Pacific Northwest, moving into the northern Rockies. We've got some rain showers tonight in eastern Ohio, western PA. Most of those, if not all of them, should fall apart before they get here, although the clouds might survive. And then we've got these showers and thunderstorms in northern Florida, part of the old frontal boundary that's stalled out. But other than that, it's kind of a snooze fest out there.
And this little system, this front that's moving toward us right now, may throw a few snowflakes up across parts of the maybe the upper Hudson Valley tonight. It doesn't look like much to write home about. And as you mentioned, Joe, the next system coming in with maybe a bit of snow or snow and rain, depending upon where you live in the Northeast. That would be again for late Friday and most likely Friday night.
Yeah, looking at the surface map at the moment, there's a weak low in northeast Ohio. You've got a cold front that's running across northern Pennsylvania, a warm front, I'm sorry, running across northern Pennsylvania. But at least that's how it's analyzed. I don't know if I would have drawn a warm front in there because it's not really that much warmer south of the warm front than it is to the north. And the dew points, they're about the same on both sides. But hey, WPC's a higher pay grade than I am, so they're they say it. I'm good with it. And this again, just going to play through tonight. It just basically brings in a dry air mass for tomorrow. We should have a nice day over across much of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states. And then, I was kind of looking ahead with this overall pattern. And I have the European up right now, and I just look at this, and I've said this a few times lately. It's April. If this were January, the snow lovers in the I-95 corridor would be jumping up and down happy because at least they would have had chances, that there would be chances. But you can also see here, Thursday looks okay. Friday on the European anyway, you've got a low in near St. Louis that winds up off the New Jersey coast by Saturday morning. Low it's going to probably, if you go north of the way the low tracks, it's just going to be a really raw late Friday night into early Saturday. And then weather conditions look to improve after that for Sunday. But then we've got another front with another low that might come out of the southeast and move northeastward just offshore for Monday. We'll see how that plays out. And then another cold front comes in with some very chilly air for the middle part of next week. Very, very cold pattern that we have.
For April, indeed, indeed, it's quite cold. I'm just looking at the European myself, Joe, and they have a coastal system that looks like later Monday and Monday night, but it looks like it's going to be just a wee bit too far to the east and north of our area to affect us, other than just throw a few clouds and maybe a little bit of fringe precipitation later
Yeah.
Monday. Relative to
Well, the trough. I brought the 500 up. This is one of those situations where, uh, as it evolves, you got to see if the trough is just a little bit sharper. You might wind up with a low that comes up closer. It looks somewhat broad, but I can see where there's a little bit of room here for something to happen. Also, one of the interesting things that's on the European anyway is the fact that you do have a ridge that builds up from the Pacific Northwest northward, and you also have higher than normal pressures in the North Atlantic. So if I pull the teleconnections up, which I will do shortly, uh, I'm probably going to have a interesting scenario with a negative NAO and a positive PNA and a negative EP East Pacific oscillation. The triple combo showing up now, as we've been saying. And by the way, the blocking high seems to develop over Iceland and into Greenland on the European, right into the days 8, 9, and 10. So that would support the idea of temperatures staying colder than normal through the forecast period.
I'm just looking here for my area of New York State. I'm looking at the European now on 12Z next Wednesday. That's the 22nd of April. I'm looking at a 524 thickness on
Yeah,
the 2nd of April.
which this time of year still could mean highs around 50.
Yeah, with that high sun or that
Correct.
or that higher sun.
Yeah.
And so it's one thing to have a 525 or 524 in January with a low sun, the high sun, but that may also mean, Joe, with the air so chilly up above, and with that high sun angle, you might see a day that starts sunny and maybe builds to a lot of clouds in the afternoon.
The GFS actually matches up pretty well with the European for early next week on the new run. I want to see. I haven't looked at the surface yet, so I'm going to bring that up now, and we'll take a look. So hang on one moment here. Okay, so let's take a look. So let's backtrack first of all, so you can see. In fact, I'm going to pull the whole U.S. view so we can show folks what's going on out in the Rockies. And weather models don't always pick up well what's happening in those mountain areas. You look at this and you say, well, that doesn't look like very much. Uh, the models miss stuff in the Rockies a lot in terms of the actual coverage and precip. And some of that is because of the models, the way they're constructed. The other part of the problem is the the geography and the terrain. Some situations where you get shadow effects, and some areas get snow and others don't. But this low that comes out for Friday, you can see the northern fringe, the GFS having a little bit of snow there, northern PA, southern New York, rain everywhere else, and then the low goes out off the Maryland coast and then deepens and moves away. And then we've got this next system for Monday, which the GFS, Joe's got a low, a 90, looks like a 90, is that a 91 low in eastern North Carolina on Monday afternoon? Rain to about New York City. So it gets the precip a little bit closer as the low moves out to the northeast. So you know what? If the trough is a little sharper, a little bit deeper, this may wind up, being a little more important. So I think we'll figure that out when we take a look at things tomorrow.
And the European also for the system on Friday night, Saturday morning, has the 540 boundary line. Now, if we use that as the rain snow line in the wintertime. But obviously, the lowest levels of the atmosphere probably will be too warm to support snow. But still, the 540 is right across northern sections of Westchester County on the
Right.
European for Friday night into Saturday morning. So maybe, just maybe, a few wet snowflakes coming, work their way down and mix up with the rain that may fall here Friday night into early Saturday. Um, but you're right. This is the pattern that the winter weather lovers would have loved to have seen in January or February. And naturally, of course, we wait until after the winter season is over and the spring season is here for all of this to transpire. But that's the way it goes.
Okay, so now I was about to pull up the teleconnections. So uh, the ESRL website, which is what it used to be, they've decided now to go in the midst of all of what's going on. They've now changed the website to the Physical Science Laboratory. So my links that I had bookmarked for it, they don't work. So I have to find this again. Oh brother. Oh well. So much for showing the teleconnections. So that's the kind of night it's been, Mr. Rayo. It's been a night where we took a major league hit here on the internet. God knows how much I know I've got some problems with my computer that I'm going to have to fix after the live stream is done. And now we can't even get the teleconnections up. What's next?
I don't.
Is the ceiling going to collapse in here?
I already told you my problems internet
Yeah,
wise.
you had a horror of a day.
I was taking and how many of you out there on the chat board have taken this course, defensive driving, where after you finish it, it's a 6 hour course, and when you finish it, you then have a certificate that then you can present it to your insurance company, and you can get X number of dollars taken off of your automobile insurance. And I was through the middle part of Unit 4, Joe. There are 6 units. Each unit lasts about an hour. Middle part of Unit 4, and all of a sudden I start seeing like a buffer, a circular buffer symbol on my monitor screen. And what happened? The internet crashed, and right in the middle of my test, and then I had a dickens of a time bringing everything back up and getting back to where I was in the test or whatever. And and I put in a phone call. This test was put on by AARP, and I put in a phone call to register some kind of a complaint, and
Hello?
and they said if you
Hello?
if you hit two on your keypad, you won't lose your place on the line, and we'll call you right back as soon as we get to that. And that was about 6 hours ago, and I've never gotten a phone call back. So
Yeah,
you
I know. Well, look, you had your issue and then translated over to me. So you know what? Let's do a Briller Jeopardy, get it done, and then we will say goodnight before the apocalypse arrives. So, who was the first male and female guest host of Saturday Night Live?
the first male guest host.
Yes.
Well, the first male guest host, the first host, period, was George Carlin.
Oh, very good. So, who was the first female host?
Um, I don't know, Phyllis Newman.
No, Candice Bergen.
Candice Bergen. Okay, well, she was big.
Yes.
Well, actually, she really wasn't big back then. It was the mid '70s. I don't think Murphy Brown came on online or on
No,
air.
but she was in I forgot what movie it was in 1979 or 1980. I think she got a supporting actress nomination, Oscar nomination out of it. So she was big doing other. She was doing movies at the a lot of movies at the time.
Yeah,
She's in Gandhi, the epic movie Gandhi that was in the
sure.
mid 1980s. Yes. Okay, so the other one is this morning, Caribou, Maine, after all the rain and warm air that moved up the eastern seaboard and all the snow they had last week, their snow cover dropped to 5 inches. But last year, they broke a record for the most consecutive days with at least 1 inch of snow on the ground. How many days was that?
I'll say off the top of my head, 134.
Not too bad. Not too bad. 163. So
Well,
they had an inch of snow on the ground beginning November 10th, right through April 21st, 2019.
okay.
That's amazing.
That is
You
amazing.
know?
Tell you this, on Facebook, sometimes you'll go look at your news feed and they'll show you some memory from X number of years ago. And apparently, I took this photograph in my front yard of a little bit of snow, and I said, after all the snow that we've had, and yet we had temperatures last week, supposedly last week was like in the 80s or whatever. This is April now. And then a cool down again. This was all that was left of the snow that, so I still had snow on
Yeah. I mean,
my lawn a few years ago. I think it was 2014 or 2015. And of course, today, the last time I saw snow here may have been back in January. It's been amazing.
you
But
know,
again, we pointed out, and I think Scott Briller also pointed out, years that have a paucity or a lack of any snow, the very next year, at least in this area, followed up with years that we had more than our fair share of snow. So for all of you winter weather lovers, while you could probably throw this winter in the garbage, hopefully next year for all of you, you'll have more than enough snow. You'll be able to make up for this particular winter next winter.
and God bless, by the way, God bless Timothy Veltman because he was able to find the teleconnection site for
Oh,
us. And so now it's not the ESRL, but it's the PSL. And here it is. And lo and behold, we've got the PNA index going positive in a not a too shabby a way over the next several days, starting from the 18th. So right through this weekend into early next week. And look at this. We've got the NAO off the wall negative in terms of by the time we get to the 19th, 20th, and 21st. So a very strong negative NAO, somewhat strong Pacific North America index. Two things that you like to see if you want snow in the Northeast and in the I-95 corridor when it's you know when it's deep in the heart of winter. I don't know if these are going to work now. And the EPO, which is off the wall negative now, actually zooms up to the neutral line around the 20th or 21st. So that's probably a good signal, Joe, for that low developing in the southeast and moving northeastward and probably becoming a strong ocean storm along the way.
but not just well. Again, if it strengthens maybe a little bit more, and if the trough deepens a little bit more, maybe a little bit closer to the coast, and maybe
Uh,
something for us.
right,
Aside from
in terms of precip, probably rain
yeah,
anyway, or cold raw rain with northeast winds. As we know this time of year, when you're going to get setups in the I-95 corridor, it has to be nothing short of perfect, and even then, it's like pulling teeth. So anyway, just putting it out there. All right, so look, before something else happens here tonight, because we've been so unlucky with the internet signals and everything else. Have a great evening. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Good night, everybody.
good luck. Good night.